Right then, the preview for tonight's game is brought to you guys by Parimatch UK, and I'll be talking through my bet this week a little bit later on in the video. If you want to skip to any particular part of the video, then check out the chapters below where you can go and do that. Right, United need to get back on track. It's quite straightforward, quite simple tonight. Manchester United need a win, and a clean sheet would be a pretty good start as well. And even though I thought we limited Palace in terms of the chances that created, it's Crystal Palace, mate. Like, that's hardly an achievement here. Galatasaray represent... and you know what? Galatasaray is one of the first teams that I saw as a child coming to Old Trafford and making it really, really difficult for us. They seem to be a bit of a thorn in our side in the 90s. And them and Juventus seem to be teams that we never played well against. Even if we got a result, we didn't play well in those games. So... one of my earliest memories of Champions League football is Galatasaray, and always seems to really bring out the best memories of Champions League football for me. We haven't played them loads, but obviously you got all the welcome to health stuff, everything that happened with Eric Cantona, like quite a rich history for teams that haven't really met so often. But anyway, we are looking to bounce back. We had a shocking defeat in Munich in the first game. United, if we're going to qualify, we have to get a victory at home in this game. It is as much as a must-win. Now, Galatasaray, in their opening game, they managed to battle back from 2-0 down to draw 2-2. I was going to say win 2-2 then, but it probably felt like one against Copenhagen on match day 1. They have won 3 on the bounce domestically since that stalemate. Sitting in the middle of the Premier League, United are going to need to win this game at Old Trafford because the pressure that's going to come on United if we don't manage to get a result, not just in this game, but also Brentford at the weekend, it's going to start to get a little bit gross, I think. Galatasaray are going to want to get a decent result going as well after a last-minute draw against Copenhagen. They kind of need to get some points on the board properly as well. I think they'll probably take a draw, whereas I think United really do manage to going to have to get a win in this game. I think it's safe to say. Really interesting what's going on at Galatasaray. Loads of names that I expect you remember in this. Buruk sets them up in a 4-2-3-1, so it really is going to match up nicely to United. And they try and build up with the fewest number of players, while the others are behind the opposition midfield or trying to pin back their backline. So that's a tactical way of kind of saying that they're a bit direct with it. But it's not necessarily long ball. It's not necessarily into the channels. They are going to try and punch through the lines. They are going to try and break lines with their passes. But they do put a lot of men forward. Now, they build up using a 2-3-5 or sometimes a 3-2-5. They look for one fullback to kind of sit in, the other one's going to push on. They'll mix up their movements, they'll invert, they'll overlap, they'll underlap. That gives them a bit of a double pivot, but it also means that the wingers get to maybe come inside one. If the winger's going to take the overlap, it means the winger can go to the outside while they do the underlap, which means you've got to have constant communication in the back line just to make sure you're getting a grip of who's doing what. They look to try and keep as much width as possible, and then the 5 defending-minded players are going to try and give them as much depth as possible as well. So that's when they are going to play vertical. You're not going to see a ton of sideways passes from them looking to hold on to possession. They don't play like that. They are going to try and stick it through the lines. They can go over the top. They can go into the channel. They can go extremely direct if they have to, and you might see that at Old Trafford tonight. But they also look to try and play it on the floor. Even if it's vertical, it's not necessarily route one, if that makes sense. Now, I think one of the main spears that Galatasaray will have with Buruk is playing the fast players, and as many of the fast players as they can and as fast as they can play it. And that makes them extremely dangerous on the transition. They are capable of dictating possession, and that is something that you'll see from them in Turkey. But in the Champions League, I just think they're going to forego that, and they're just going to try and hurt teams, especially with what's in the group. With Manchester United, with Bayern Munich, they are actually genuinely capable of getting a result against either of those two teams, but it's going to be off the back foot, and it's going to be by being better, or at least catching someone cold on the transition. Now, when the focus switches onto their approach out of possession, their approach seems to be about pressing that allows them to be, again, very, very flexible to be able to regain possession. They do try and focus it on those wide areas, but also when it comes into the central, they do have a bit of a central press to try and win the ball back. They don't really seem to drop back with any sort of blocking, which leaves them vulnerable to big counters. If I had to say what structure is it, it's quite a basic 4-4-2. Sort of a mid block, but like they're not very passive with it. So calling it, it's not an ultra high press, and they certainly don't low block. And calling it a mid block feels like I don't really know how to describe exactly what we're seeing, but they're not passive when they're defending. It's very compact, and it's quite hard working, and it does shuttle around quite a lot. So calling it a mid block, for me, a mid block's almost like a lazy press, and I couldn't really call theirs a proper lazy press. It does seem that they try and draw you into certain areas of the pitch to try and take the ball off, So it's quite interesting the way they do it. Now, they usually use those pressing traps to try and they're certainly going to want to try and win the ball back high. With the way United play out, they might not try and do it there. They might try and take it off us in the middle of the pitch. And I think the midfield battle is going to be very interesting. United have definitely got the personnel to dominate in midfield, but I think that's where Galatasaray are going to want to try to take it off us. So what you see often with them is they'll allow the opposition to kind of build it up, and then the fullback will kind of jump and press using a touchline as the extra defender while the teammates close in on all of the different passing lanes and all of the options inside. So it's not exactly clever. It's quite a well-worn practice, but it's one that they'll try and do. And I spoke about this last week when everyone was talking about how Maguire had such a good game, and I was like, yeah, but he's still passing it to the fullback, and that for me is a pressing trap. That's I don't let my lads do, and I absolutely lose my shit if my lads do it, because it's one of the most, like, certainly at our level at least as well, when you're playing out from the back, you've got to move the ball through the third. You've got to get it out of your third into the middle third, get on a turn, get over the halfway line and start an attack. And one of the ways that breaks down is if you get a bit of man marking going on in the middle of the pitch, lazy players are going to pass it to the fullback because he's just there. He's right there. I can see him. He's there. It's a 15-metre pass. I can make that pass. That's not a problem. And then they make that pass, but the shape of, let's say a left side centre-half goes to play it to the left back. Everybody in the stadium can see when the left side centre-half shapes up to pass it to the left back. He's putting no disguise on it. He's not even giving a point into the middle like he's about to play it and then sends it there. Nah, he's basically said, hey, everyone, just in case you're wondering, I'm going to pass it in now. And then they pass it in. And he's not going to fizz it in. He's going to just trickle it into him. And you're going, for fuck's sake, mate. And what happens there is someone will stand 2-3 metres further off him than they really want to be. And then as the player, because the ball's coming from behind him as well, as the player's got to turn around to see where the ball is, they're already on their way to him because they know as soon as he shapes up his hips to go that way, then he's going to go that way. And it's worth the gamble sometimes that they're going to go there. So as the ball arrives at that fullback, it's such an obvious press. And if the pass is behind them, which it often is, which is not a good technical way to pass the ball to somebody anyway, but if the pass is behind them, they've got to turn and orientate their body entirely towards the ball to collect it, which means that they've not actually managed to open themselves up and collect the ball and start moving it forward. It's just such a shit pass. And it's typically right on the edge of your third and the middle third. And that is such a horrendous area to press someone because it's far enough out of the box that it's not complete and utter panic stations and people wouldn't consider that a dangerous ball. So people think they can play this, and it's one of the most played passes in world football, and it's fucking wank. But because it's kind of on its way into the middle third, people think it's an all right pass, and it's not. And I bet if you analysed, does everyone know this? Do you know what situation on the pitch you lose possession the most? It's throw-ins. In terms of the probability of you losing the ball from any given possession or throw-in is the number one way. But I bet if you had to look at the next biggest one, it would probably going to be centre-half to a full-back when playing out. I reckon that's obviously in the final third with the opposition is a heavy opportunity to lose the ball. But the dynamic is different. When you're forcing a pass to create a goal-scoring opportunity, that's fine because you're 60, 70 metres away from your own goal. When you're doing it 25 metres from your own goal and there's maybe only one centre-half in between the ball and your goalkeeper, that's seriously problematic places to lose the ball. So I might have gone overboard on how much I fucking hate that pass, but it is something that if you play this against Galatasaray tonight, they're going to catch you with it because it's something that they're definitely really good at. In terms of the 11, here it is. Some names that you might recognise there. Davinson Sanchez is obviously playing out there. Torreira's playing out there. You've got Zaha, Mertens, and Icardi. And I think Icardi is going to be probably the star man. Been a bit of a goal machine. He's got 33 and 38 since arriving. And he's already firing around about a goal a game for them this season. Yikes. He's an absolute predator in the box. You give him half a yard, and he's going to absolutely punish you. He's a really deadly finisher, very savvy, very experienced, isn't always involved, but you put the ball in the box and he is going to find a way to get himself on there, and he's going to shoot at every single opportunity. He does not pass up an opportunity to shoot at all. If you switch off, he's going to make you pay. That's the top and bottom of it. In terms of my United 11, I've ummed and ahed about this a little bit, and I think the best move is for us to bring Amrabat into midfield. I think he's played really well in the cameo that we've seen and the start that we saw against Crystal Palace. Playing in this sort of inverted left-back role hasn't been an issue for us defensively and has been a real asset for us, allowing us to get Bruno and Mount on the ball, give someone a little bit of protection alongside Casemiro. But I feel like United haven't had quite the attacking output that we might have had with a traditional kind of left-back role in there. So for that reason, and another reason of this is Reguilon's one of our better players at the moment, a very potent attacking outlet for us, and I think him and Rashford, maybe Rashford looks a little bit better when he's got someone taking it away. Like you see him being effective with Luke Shaw because Luke Shaw looks to take people away from him. Maybe Rashford's lacking that a little bit this year because he's certainly lacking something. So I'm going to go Reguilon. I'm going to go Dalot. Two very attacking fullbacks. But I'm going to go with two quite defensive sixes in front of the two centre-halves, which is I think is going to be Varane and Lindelof. Onana in there, in case you didn't get a memo. Amrabat and Casemiro. I want to see how those two play together. I'm going Mount in the 10. And this can be flexible because Mount has been extremely flexible. But I think having Amrabat alongside Casemiro, you're going to get the best out of both Bruno and Mount here. So I'm going to line it up as Mount in the 10. Bruno on the right-hand side where we know he can be effective, and tell him to be on the right-hand side and tell him to be putting balls in the box that we can get Højlund on. I think United might have become a little bit preoccupied with scoring the perfect goal. Fuck that noise, right? And actually, one of the issues that I thought we might have had against Palace was Pellistri is the kind of forward that's very, very direct, and against a team that's going to sit back against you, you want someone that's going to be creating a little bit more for everybody else. Pellistri, I think he's probably more balanced than you get out of Marcus in terms of Marcus is coming into the box and he's looking to create for himself. Now, he probably should be 2/3 create for himself, 1/3 create for somebody else in the sort of role that he occupies as a left forward. That's the sort of ratio you'd be looking at. That's the sort of thing you used to get out of Mane, for example. That's the sort of like you don't want someone who's 100 for themselves and none for anybody else. That's too much cooked. And you do want that goal threat from a player that realistically is the highest scoring player in our team. So you do want him to be coming inside for himself, but he also needs to lay it on for everybody else. And that being the case, you've got a 9 in the middle of the pitch here who I think looks really good, but he's not getting any sort of service. So having Mount behind him and having Bruno tasked with being a right-sided forward that's actually just there to create, because I don't think Pellistri was. I'm not really sure Antony is when he plays. Antony very much comes himself to go and fucking stick it over the bar when he plays off the right-hand side. So Bruno off the right-hand side, looking to create, looking to play dangerous balls, just in and see if Howson can gamble on a few of them. I think that's going to be the way Manchester United can get this game won. And I think that's starting to become, that's only Martinez and arguably Wan-Bissaka away from being United's best 11. I think you could argue at the moment, depending on what happens with Antony. So even though, I think they need a little bit of time to gel, I'm not sure everyone's match fit, they're certainly not in form, that's starting to look like a strong Manchester United 11. And for me, the match winner in that is Bruno Fernandes. He came off an exceptional volley against Burnley. He should be brimming with confidence, despite what happened at the weekend. I think he's really key to unlocking a team defensively, operating in the space behind their midfield. He won't be a traditional winger that's going to hug the touchline, but he will operate in that right sort of half space. And Dalot would probably look to get beyond him in the right wing, and I think that would be fine. I think having that and maybe Mount knitting it together a little bit, getting onto Amrabat and them two holding a little bit more possession and being a bit progressive, and then getting it to Bruno in the final third where he can put a dangerous ball in, or Dalot can put a dangerous ball in. And I think Bruno trying to find Hojlund in the box would be really, really effective for us. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, this preview, as always, is brought to you by Parimatch UK, and I have got an exclusive boost for you guys that you're not going to get anywhere else. And these are my bets for our Champions League game. I am going... Calm down. I am going United to win. I'm going over 3.5 goals. I'm going both teams to score. And this bet has been boosted from 11-4 to 3-1. So if you would like to get in the mix with that, all you got to do is click the link in the description. And as I always say, prices are subject to fluctuation and availability. You need to be 18 plus to participate. And we know that football, and trust me, especially United at the moment, are extremely unpredictable. It's just a bit of fun to enhance your enjoyment of the game. It's not a promise of winning. And for more information or help on responsible gaming, please visit begambleaware.org. Once again, this is exclusive to me and Parimatch UK. Click the link below to get involved, or if you want, let me know in the comments what you're going for with this game. How do you beat Galatasaray with this? I think the first thing is, defensively, they're not the strongest. They're very much used to dominating games. So instinctively, they're going to want to try and get on the ball, and they're going to try and want to move themselves up the pitch. So I think United's first job is to get hold of the ball ourselves and to pen them back. Quality-wise, United have got more, right? Even out of form, United have got more. And even this, like, well, we got beat off Crystal Palace. Yeah, we did, but we still had like nearly 80% of the ball, and the quality shown in that. They had to sit off the back foot. But Crystal Palace are far more used to doing that than Galatasaray are. So Galatasaray so used to having all the ball themselves. If you can put them on the back foot, they're not instinctively used to it. Play at a high tempo. You might be able to shake them out of it. Don't allow them to get comfortable. Certainly don't allow them to score an early goal, because then they've got something that they're trying to fight for then. I think you attack down the right-hand side with Bruno and with Dalot. Even though Marcus and Reguilon could be dangerous, I think the width that you'll get out of having both of those doing that, with that little security square of Amrabat, Casemiro, Lindelof and Varane, providing the protection you're going to need to prevent the counters. Those four players providing width and giving you that sort of attacking impetus, and then Mount and Howson in the middle gives you a real sort of attacking threat. And I think the first choice left back is probably going to be one of the ones that's missing this game through injury. If you can expose them down that side, probably with, I think it'll be Bruno. It could be Mount, but it probably is definitely going to be Dalot. If we can see Amrabat finding switches early in the play, because I think one of the things with United this season have been so ponderous moving the ball forward. We haven't really moved through the gears with any sort of pace. We've seen that we've actually held possession quite far back and quite often with fucking Onana. Like, we can't be doing that. Stretch the midfield, stretch the back line, get the ball forward early. You know, they are a team that is going to be fairly high up the pitch. They're not used to sitting on the very edge of their box and defending for their lives and defending the box and every single ball like that. That's not how they play. That's not how they're used to playing. It's like when someone does it to United, we're not great at it because it's not what our normal sort of situation is. So put it on them. Attack down that right-hand side, and we might unlock something that's very useful for us in games going forward, whether it's Mount, whether it's Bruno, just someone. Be on that right-hand side. Let me see how Amrabat and Casemiro can carve it up between them in the middle of the park and just look like a team that gives a fuck for a minute. You know, we did last Tuesday. We didn't on Saturday. Let's go back to what we had on Tuesday, eh? Champions League's back in town. Let's have it. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.